Recognize the gentleman from Iowa, Mr. King, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I thank the witnesses for your testimony here today. I'm just thinking about how the Americans with Disabilities Act in a way changed my life, and I want to put this narrative into the record. I happen to have been the only public building in the community that was wheelchair accessible right after the passage of the ADA. And so they came and asked me, would you be the host of the Republican caucus in your community? And I said, sure, I'm happy to open up my doors and help people out. And then I became the chairman of that caucus, and now here I am in Congress. So I just slipped that in as I don't know how many different implications there are. I'm sure it's affected your lives a lot more than it's affected mine, but it's ironic that if that meeting had never taken place, who knows what I'd be doing today. So I wanted to ask, especially Mr. Buckland, and I'd ask if you could be brief in your analysis of this, but you lived through 20 years prior to the ADA in a wheelchair and 26 years afterwards, and you probably didn't see the immediate results of that because we had a lot of new construction that took place and refurbishing that took place. So I don't have any doubt that it's changed a lot of accessibility, and you've seen it incrementally from your eyes. The question back then in 1990 was, do we require compliance with the ADA only on new construction or also for existing buildings and facilities? And I recall going in and doing curb cuts and making wheelchair accessible, and I'm wondering why didn't we think of that when we built that sidewalk in the first place? It was really it was a huge oversight on the part of our society not to see how simple and how cheap that part of the ADA could have been. But what would it be like today, do you think, if the ADA had been written in such a way that new construction complied, but old construction was voluntary? What kind of progress do you think we would have made in the last 26 years?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. King, very little. I mean, if you walk around this town, most of this is old construction. So if we hadn't applied the ADA to existing structures, nothing here would be, or not nothing, but a lot of the buildings here wouldn't be required to comply.
It's okay. So you think, and these buildings especially, I've got some of the oldest buildings here, and in my neighborhood it would be different for different reasons. We have a lot of new sidewalks and a lot of new curb cuts would have been done. But I want to ask you in your perspective, and you've given it to me, and I appreciate it. Then I'd like to turn to Ms. Shaw, and you mentioned that there are essentially a copy and paste 100 lawsuits from a single lawyer, and those lawyers in many cases, it's either you or Ms. Key, that said that the lawyers had not been in the facility. So I'll ask you each of you, but I'll go first to Ms. Shaw. What does that list of plaintiffs look like? When you've got a lawyer with 100 suits that are copied and pasted, what's the list of the plaintiffs look like on each of those suits?
In my case, it's just one plaintiff, and so the attorney is using that one plaintiff to fish out other properties in the area and slap the same lawsuit on them.
And have you looked at the plaintiffs in those other lawsuits that were filed by the same attorney? Could it be the same plaintiff in some of those cases, or even all of them?
Absolutely, yes. And in this case, it is the same. I mentioned that my father received the same lawsuit, same number of pages, same attorney, same plaintiff at his property.
Okay, but there are 98 others out there. What's the likelihood that that same plaintiff has also been utilized by the same attorney in a number of other cases in addition to you and your father?
There is a likelihood that there's the same plaintiff, same attorney. There's also other plaintiffs and other attorneys. So
Yeah.
it's an ongoing case, right? I mean, you can have one plaintiff suing 100 properties using the same attorney. And that same attorney may want to settle 100 properties, and you average $5,000. That's a lot of money.
Okay, so I'm just trying to get this concept of how this works in the attorney's office. You have an attorney that is a hotel chasing attorney, and he decides, I've got a potential plaintiff here, I'm going to contact him, and the two of us can go together, and now we'll file potentially 100 lawsuits, and you be the plaintiff, I'll be the attorney, and we'll collect this money at the expense of the businesses that never had a chance of a notice to cure, never an opportunity to even know that they were potentially out of compliance with the ADA. So I look at that and I think, had these plaintiffs then, what's the likelihood that the plaintiff had never been in the building before the suit was filed?
I think each case varies. In my case, I looked back 1 year to check the reservations if the first name and last name ever matched, and there was no record of that person ever staying at our hotel.
Ms. Key,
Yes, sir.
would you concur with the testimony of Ms. Shaw in your experience?
Yes, on that particular day, this individual sued 3 locations in our city, same person, and he does not live in the city. And that particular day, I was not at the shop. I came back from doing my errands, and I got a package, and I asked everybody, who is this person? No one knew who he was. I even asked a medical facility that does provide wheelchairs, just to make sure if he's, in the register with them or buy anything from them, they don't even know who he is. And recently, they did a kind of investigator on these individuals. He is an able-bodied. He sit in the wheelchair. He go to places, and he uses wheelchairs to get what he does, and he lifts his wheelchair to put back in his truck. He has no...
Isn't that fraud? Would you say that's fraud?
That is very fraud, and that's why we're here, is that we need to stop this. We need to stop this fraud. We need to stop this ridiculous using ADA to get what they want. Like, Mr. Buck said that this facility, he contacted 3 times and they no respond. Please, go sue them. Double the price, whatever that need to be done, yes. But, give us a chance, like myself or Ms. Shaw, that we don't have any barriers in our facility. No barriers, just because we don't have the information that you folks
Okay.
changes. The lawyers has no right. It's not a barrier. If it's a barrier, please come after us. We have no problem.
Thank you very much. I thank the witnesses and yield back.
Thank you,
Mr. Chairman.
gentlemen.